You ever notice how money seems to behave? Differently depending on who has it. Like you're sitting there, maybe late at night, scrolling through your banking app, doing that mental math thing, okay? If I don't order food this week, and I delay that payment, and maybe skip that one subscription, and somehow, even after all that effort, it still feels like you're just holding things together, not building, not growing, just maintaining. And honestly, that feeling, it's exhausting, because it's not like you're careless. You're trying, you're thinking about money, you're making adjustments, you're being responsible. It still feels like no matter what you do, you're stuck in the same loop. Meanwhile, there's someone out there who, let's be honest, isn't necessarily smarter than you, doesn't seem to be working twice as hard, and definitely doesn't look stressed every time they swipe their card. And their money just keeps growing. Quietly. Almost invisibly. No big announcements. No dramatic changes. Just steady progress. And that's the part that gets under your skin a little, right? Because it doesn't look like they're doing anything special. So you start asking yourself questions. What are they doing differently? What am I missing? Is there something obvious that I just don't see yet? I've spent way too much time thinking about this. Like, genuinely, my name is Tim, and I tend to overthink money more than I probably should. Not just how to make it, but how people behave around it. Why some people stress over it constantly. And why others seem to move through life like money is just a tool, not a problem. And the weirdest thing I've noticed? The difference isn't loud. It's not flashy. It's not something people brag about at dinner. It's not some viral, do this and you'll get rich trick. It's quiet. So quiet that most people don't even realize it's happening. But once you see it, it changes how you think about everything. Because this silent strategy isn't about working harder. It's not even mainly about earning more. It's about what happens after the money shows up. And if you understand that, like really understand it, you stop constantly reacting to money and start controlling where it goes. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people think they're playing the same financial game as wealthy people. Same rules. Same system. Same opportunities, just different outcomes. But that's not really what's happening. It only looks like the same game from the outside. Because yeah, we all earn, we all spend, we all save. At least we try to. But the structure underneath is completely different. For most people, money flows like this. Earn gives, spend gives, try to save what's left. And even if you're disciplined, maybe you tweak it slightly. Earn gives, save a bit, give, spend the rest, which, honestly, already puts you ahead of a lot of people. But wealthy people, they flipped the entire system. Their flow looks more like earn gives, allocate gives, invest gives, spend what's left. And that one subtle change shifts everything. Because now, spending isn't the default. It's the leftover. Let that sink in for a second. Spending becomes what's allowed after growth is taken care of. And this changes your identity around money. You're no longer someone who tries to save. And there's a psychological shift here that people underestimate. Because when you prioritize growth before lifestyle, your lifestyle adjusts automatically. Not painfully. Just gradually. Let's go a little deeper into this idea of ownership. Because this is really the core of the silent strategy. Most people are trained literally from school to value effort. Work hard gives, get rewarded. And that works. To a point, but effort has a ceiling. You only have so many hours in a day. So even if you increase your income, it's still tied to your time. Ownership breaks that relationship. And this is where things get interesting. Because once you own something that produces income, you've created a second layer to your financial life. One that doesn't depend on your daily energy. Now, here's the part people don't like to hear. At the beginning, ownership feels unfair. Because you put in money, and you don't see immediate results. Sometimes it even goes backwards, and that's uncomfortable. But over time, ownership starts to outperform effort. Not because it's magical, but because it compounds. There's a gap that most people never cross. I like to think of it as the patience gap. It's that awkward period where you've started doing the right things, but you're not seeing meaningful results yet. You're investing. You're saving. You're being intentional. And yet, your life doesn't feel dramatically different. Your bank account isn't exploding. Your stress hasn't magically disappeared. And this is where most people quit. Not because the strategy doesn't work, but because it doesn't work fast enough. We live in a world that rewards speed, fast results, instant feedback, quick wins. But wealth rewards patience. And honestly, that mismatch is where most people lose. Because they're using short-term expectations to judge a long-term strategy, and that never ends well. Wealthy people, whether consciously or not, have learned to sit in that gap, to tolerate slow progress, to trust the process even when it feels uneventful, and that's a skill, a really valuable one. Let's revisit delayed gratification for a second, but from a different angle, because it's not just about discipline. It's about identity. If you see yourself as someone who misses out when you don't spend, then saving and investing will always feel like a loss. But if you see yourself as someone who is building something, then spending impulsively starts to feel like a distraction. Same action, completely different emotional experience. And this is subtle but powerful, because your identity drives your behavior more than logic ever will. We talked about compounding earlier, but let's make it more real. Because mathematically, compounding is easy to understand. Emotionally, it's frustrating. Because for a long time, nothing exciting happens. You check your progress, and it's like, oh, okay, that's it? And that can feel discouraging. But what you don't see is the acceleration building underneath. It's like pushing a car. At first, it barely moves. Then slowly, it starts rolling. And eventually, it gains enough momentum that it almost moves itself. That's compounding. But most people quit while they're still pushing. Let's be honest. Money decisions are rarely logical in the moment. They're emotional. You buy things when you're stressed. You avoid looking at your finances when you're overwhelmed. You make quick decisions when you're anxious. And these patterns quietly hold people back. Wealthy people aren't emotionless. They just have systems that protect them from their own impulses. They've created distance between feeling and action. And that's a huge advantage. This one is simple, but powerful. If your financial progress depends on you feeling motivated, you're going to struggle. Because motivation is inconsistent. Some days you care. Some days you don't. But systems, they don't care how you feel. They just run. Automatic investments, automatic savings, pre-decided allocations. And over time, those systems create results that feel almost effortless. Not because they are easy, but because they're consistent. Something interesting happens when you follow this strategy long enough. Your relationship with money changes. You stop feeling reactive. You stop feeling like money controls your decisions. And instead, you feel a kind of quiet confidence. Not flashy, not loud. Just stable. You know where your money's going. You know it's working for you. And that reduces a level of stress most people don't even realize they're carrying. And honestly, that feeling alone is worth it. Asterisk, there's one part of this whole conversation that people don't talk about enough. And it's a little uncomfortable. Honestly, your environment, like the people around you, the content you consume, the conversations you're part of it, shapes your financial behavior way more than you think. Quietly, subtly, constantly. Think about it. If you're surrounded by people who treat money like something that's always scarce, always stressful, always disappearing, you start to internalize that, not consciously, but over time. It becomes your default mindset. You expect money to leave. You expect things to go wrong, so you don't build long-term strategies. Because deep down, you don't believe they'll last. On the flip side, if you're around people even digitally who talk about investing, building, owning, thinking long-term, you start to absorb that too. You start asking better questions. You start seeing opportunities you didn't notice before. And here's the interesting part. It's so when you zoom out and look at all of this. The silent strategy isn't really a secret. It's just overlooked. It's choosing ownership over consumption, long-term thinking over short-term comfort, systems over willpower, patience over urgency. And yeah, it's not exciting at first. It doesn't feel like a breakthrough moment. It feels small, slow, almost invisible. But that's exactly why it works. Because while everyone else is chasing quick wins, this strategy is quietly building something real, something stable, something that grows whether you're paying attention or not. And here's the part I want you to really take with you. You don't need to be rich to start using this. You don't need perfect timing. You don't need a massive income. You just need to start thinking differently. To stop asking, what can I afford right now? And start asking, what could this become later? Because the moment that question becomes part of your thinking, you're not just managing money anymore. You're building something. And it won't look impressive right away, but give it time. And it changes everything.